Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever it might be, wherever you might be. Welcome once again to Full Fat Spoiler Chat. That is the show where us, the folks at Nerd Caliber, bring to you an analysis of some recent, or in this case, recent-ish, piece of nerd entertainment. We talk about what worked about it, what didn't work about it, what we liked, what we didn't like, and if the creator had any sort of overarching message or theme that it tried to, or they tried to portray throughout the story. To do that, of course, we have to talk in depth about this particular piece of entertainment, and that means we're going to spoil it. Now, this week, it's not nearly as much of a problem as it usually is, because this is a movie that came out 1 year and 3 weeks ago, September 3rd, 2020, at least here in the States, and that is Tenet. So we'll be talking, or I will be talking about Tenet. As I said in the teaser, it's time we talked about Tenet and its treatment of time. So I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. I am first-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, Burley_adopter on Twitter, and a couple of other places, mostly as a tech journalist. And I am again solo tonight. Sorry, folks. It's that time of year. Things are getting crazy. Schools are back in session, cons are heating up, etc., etc. So lots of people be lots of busy. So, what is Tenet? Tenet is a movie, a completely wholly original concept from Christopher Nolan, who wrote and directed it. According to information I've read, he had been working on this thing at some level, at the very least, mulling it over in his head for the better part of 20 years. Before he actually finally brought it to the screen. It is the story of an unnamed CIA agent, is credited as simply the protagonist, who winds up caught up in a science fiction conspiracy thriller, where he eventually winds up discovering that he has been recruited into an agency that is trying to stop people from bringing future technology into the past, a technology that reverses the entropy of an object or a person. They move backward through time, even though the world's timeline moves forward. Skyman, welcome to the show. Skyman Flyman. Again, I doubt that we're spoiling Tenet for you, but that is what we're talking about. At this point, if you haven't seen it, you probably don't want to. So you probably won't have a problem if we do spoil it for you, but that is our warning. This is the Spoiler Chat show, and Tenet is the movie we're talking about. It is an action thriller science fiction movie. Again, written and directed by Christopher Nolan. It was released only in theaters as kind of the only movie released, or major tentpole movie anyway, released in theaters in 2020. It did not make a profit. It looks like it lost somewhere between $50 and $100 million, depending on how much you think they spent on marketing. And I saw a lot of ads. So that could be blamed on the fact that it was released at the very height of the pandemic, September of last year, long before anybody was even aware that there was the potential of a vaccine coming by the end of the year. Or it could be that it's, in the minds of an awful lot of people, really confusing. Like an awful lot of Christopher Nolan's movies, almost every Christopher Nolan movie, it deals with time and or memory, or at least the perception of time. Memento was certainly that. Interstellar was that. Inception was that. I'm not really sure you could say so much the Dark Knight movies dealt with time and perception of time so much. But almost anything other than those three movies that Nolan has made definitely deals with that. Even I can't think of the name of it. I have to look up Nolan's IMDb here really quickly. Well, The Prestige doesn't so much deal with that. Um, the Prestige is a wonderful movie, and it deals with a lot of very interesting things. Insomnia kind of deals with time in that, the perception of time for somebody who literally can't sleep is pretty messed up. Um, so, what did I like about Tenet? I love the cast. Um, John David Washington should be in every action movie made going forward. Please, somebody do that. And every drama. I mean, Black Klansman, drama, comedy, all sorts of things. He was fantastic. But yeah, John David Washington is. He looks 100% believable in every action bit he is doing. I don't know if he knows any sort of martial art, but boy, he sells it. Um, in a way that realistically very few action stars, do, who are not, have come over from the martial arts world or, like Batista, the wrestling world or something, where they have literally been trained to either be actual fighters or wonderfully choreographed pretend fighters. Um, Robert Pattinson. I've been a Robert Pattinson fan since Cedric Diggory. Sure, the Twilight movies are god awful, but that's not his fault. He's an amazing actor. He's wonderful in this. Kind of filling the Tom Hardy role in Inception, but not entirely. It's his own take. It's a different character. Um, the Michael Caine is wonderful in the little bit that he's in. I like Kenneth Branagh. I've seen people who despise his accent. I think it's pretty solid. Um, Aaron Taylor Johnson is wonderful. In almost everything he does. I don't know anything about the actress other than this particular movie, but Elizabeth Debicki is fantastic as Kenneth Branagh, who plays Andrei Sator, a Russian arms dealer, and way worse, his estranged wife, Kat. So I really like this. Fantastic cast. Excellent job. And everybody does a fantastic job. I like the action. The action is, for the most part, with one big exception, fantastic. It's really exciting. Let me see if I can get some. There's lots of. In fact, this is in a car chase scene that is probably the most exciting and interesting and innovative car chase scene I've seen since the Matrix Reloaded's highway chase scene. The things that they do with cars that are traveling forward in time and in some cases backward in time, it's just fantastic. At the end there is a big battle. This is an abandoned city in Russia that was one of the former secret cities. There's a very important plot point. The biggest, baddest technology from the future that they're looking for is in this city. That's a big action set piece. So the action is fantastic. For the most part, the direction is really solid. It's Christopher Nolan. He gets great performances out of people. His cinematographer does a fantastic job taking his vision and putting it out there. It is structured strangely, of course, because it's a Nolan movie about time and the perception of time. And so it's even weirder than Memento in that sense. And I know a lot of people had a very hard time following it, that they thought that it was basically just too confusing. I didn't find that. I got what they were doing. I have problems with what they were doing, but I didn't find Nolan's structure of the movie to be that confusing. But then again, I'm a science fiction fan. I'm used to time travel stories and even weird time travel stories. And this one's pretty weird. There's no question about it. The soundtrack is interesting. I'll get into other things about the sound, unfortunately, and one of the things I don't like. Um, when it works, it's very interesting music. When it doesn't, it really gets in the way. So things I like when it works. It's very interesting music when it works. For the most part, the other things about the construction of a movie, the lighting, again, the cinematography, the editing is pretty good, except again for a few really bizarre choices, or I would say just bad editing jobs. But for the most part, it's really good. And apparently, this is not his regular editor. That person was hired away to do the movie 2017. Not 2017, 1917. And so he had to rely on somebody else who does a creditable job, again, up until the end. Let's see, what else did I really like? So I like the idea of what Nolan is trying to do with his portrayal of time here. I'm going to get into things I don't like about that, and that's a pretty big problem in things I don't like about this movie. But I do like, I mean, it's a ballsy concept. I like the fact that Nolan had the stones to do it, to create this spectacle, and it's a spectacle. It is. So this is a Christopher Nolan James Bond movie. That's the best way to describe it. If anybody wants to know what this is like, it's Christopher Nolan, so he's playing with time and perception of time as a James Bond movie. There is just insanely over-the-top, ostentatious displays of ridiculous wealth. There is just, there are action set pieces with, wonderful cars and, fantastic gunplay. They crash a jet into a part of an airport, which apparently they did actual as live, full-size real effects. I found it was cheaper to buy a jet from a used jet place in the United States and crash it into a building than to actually try to recreate that whole thing in CG. So it's a Bond movie. And if that's the case, now the one thing they don't do, there's no Bond womanizing in here, so I'm not really sure that John David Washington, by the way, of course, Denzel Washington's son, who plays the protagonist, is the right person to be the next Bond. But boy, if they cast him, I would have no problem. His action chops are fantastic. His comedy chops are fantastic as well. If they were going to go, a little bit more sort of action Roger Moore-esque for Bond. And again, I don't know, what's going to happen, with Daniel Craig and Bond and so on. I'm just saying, having an American Bond might be a problem, but he would be an awesome one. And so it really is. It's a Bond film. And that makes it very exciting. Nolan knows what he's trying to do with this action thriller. And the action thriller parts of this are wonderful. It's more than 2.5 hours. And until you get through the midpoint, the exposition parts of this thing are delivered so quickly and matter-of-factly. Like, Michael Caine is basically there for an exposition bit. And he's on screen less time than he is in Inception. Like, hi, I'm Michael Caine. Here's what you need to know. Boom. One of the things that people have complained about that I don't dislike, I'm pretty neutral on it, is the idea that we don't ever know what the protagonist's name is. He is referred to as a protagonist twice in the movie. They don't give him that title. Both times in the presence of Priya, an Indian from Mumbai arms dealer, who, as it turns out, is also a member of this group Tenet. That's the name of the time manipulating, defending, whatever you want to call it, organization that's trying to stop Kenneth Branagh's character from doing something terrible which you don't know until pretty much the third act. He's a terrible person, and they know the terrible things he's doing is importing technology from the future and inverting things in the current present so that they flow backwards in time, which cause real problems. But you don't really know what his big, big, bad reasoning is until the third act. So I think, what does I dislike? Oh yeah, the fact that he was not named. There are plenty of books that are like that. There are other movies that are like that. That's fine. I have no problem with that. That's a stylistic choice that allows you to sort of put yourself even more into the head of the protagonist, and that's it works well in this case. The fact that in one case Priya says that the only way he's going to get past Sator, he's trying to get a meeting with Sator early on in the movie. The only way that he's going to do that, or the only person that could do that, is a fresh-faced protagonist. And she says, and you are certainly among the freshest faces, because he is supposedly dead. And the next time he says it to Priya, when she says something about the fact that he was literally set up to fail. That was his mission, was to fail at something he was trying to do. And he says, but I'm supposed to be the protagonist. And she says, you think you're the only protagonist in this particular story? Which is really neat. I mean, it was a neat thing. And so that's the only two times they use it. It's not like that's his name. He's just never uses his name. Nobody ever calls him by a name. And again, I'm fine with that. So having said that, that's pretty much the major things that I appreciate about this. There are little things that I've discovered just reading some information about this. Apparently, at the end, where all the soldiers are fighting in that abandoned city, and that screenshot that I brought up before, Nolan actually had a watchmaker make 50 watches that had an analog face with a digital screen inside that matched the colors of the two teams, the red and the blue team. So those watches that you see occasionally are actually working. They have a 10-minute countdown for something that's going to happen. It's a spoiler show. I guess it doesn't matter. For an enormous explosion that's going to happen, which would seal this device called the algorithm, which is a physical device, even though it technically functions as an algorithm, so that so the good guys can't get to it and stop Sator from using it to essentially destroy the universe. And we'll get into that too, as a motivation thing for Sator, or the people behind him. So yeah, those are the things I like mostly. I really like this. I can see why this movie won an Academy Award for Best Production Design. The vehicles are gorgeous, the costume designs are gorgeous, the overall look of it is fantastic. Even if that's the algorithm, that's the MacGuffin, that's the thing. It's a crankshaft out of like a 1960 Mack diesel. Or at least that's what it looks like to me. I mean, come on, guys. Earn your Academy Award. That's just silly. But anyway, sorry. Everything else about it is fantastic as far as the production design, and it certainly deserved to win that. It also won visual effects, and I guess if you're including in that all of the actual practical effects that were done, yeah, I'll buy that. So what didn't I like about it? So first off, as a general, I did not dislike this as much as many people do. I'm not sure that I'm in the general rating of this seems to be about a 7 or a 6.9 on both Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, maybe. I think I might be more of a 6 with this for a couple of reasons. I might kick it up to a 7 because of the performances. But things I didn't like about it. So first off, it's way too long. for the amount of plot twists, turns, and so on that Nolan crams into this. This is essentially half of a season of the show 24. It's kind of structured similarly. The protagonist starts out as a CIA agent. It is a spy thriller action. It's kind of 24 or a Bond movie, but it's like half a season. So it's 12 hours worth of content stuck into a little more than 2.5. And that becomes a problem. Now, again, I understand, the protagonist doesn't have a name, so therefore right out of the gate, Nolan is not trying to give you a character with deep background and character motivation. About the only thing you really find out about him is that he's willing to die for his CIA compatriots. At the beginning, he thinks he kills himself rather than giving them up by swallowing a cyanide pill, which look like they're made of metal. Maybe that's a real thing. I'm not a CIA expert. If somebody knows that, let me know. But really? Metal pills? Anyway. So that's about the only thing we know about him. That he's damn good at his job. And that he is willing to die for something. And that's it. That's the only character motivation we get out of it. We get no more motivation out of Robert Pattinson's character Neil until the very, very end. The only people we get any real character motivation out of are Sator, Kenneth Branagh's villain, and his estranged wife, Kat. And that motivation basically boils down to she is absolutely devoted to their son. She feels like she is not even close to being a good enough mother because she still allows them to be in a situation where she knows that Sator is a arms dealing, murdering scumbag, and can't get out of it. Isn't brave enough or smart enough to try to figure a way out of it. So that's her motivation. Sator's motivation, it starts out being just, hi, I'm a bad guy. And it isn't until, again, like I said, the third act, we find out that his motivation is he's dying of an incurable pancreatic cancer. And as he has said to Kat, that he will kill her if she, tries to leave because, if I can't have you, nobody can. She says he has that same attitude about the world, that if he can't, have the world, or if he can't be part of the world, nobody can. Okay, that's, sure, they're all kind of weird megalomaniacs out there, and maybe. But we eventually find out that he is actually acting out the plans of the people even further into the future than these soldiers come from. Because they come from a point somewhere in the future where you find out at the very end that, and this has been spoiled in so many different things, that the protagonist is the founder of Tenet from some point in the future and recruits most of these future soldiers. His motivation is that the people who actually created this technology are from a world in which our generation has completely ecologically destroyed the planet. It is essentially unlivable. And the last people that are left alive on it, who have created this technology, are using him to, one, find the pieces of this algorithm which had been hidden by the scientists that actually created it in the past, put it together, and destroy the world. So I don't buy that motivation at all. People in the future are willing to... So it ends time. It destroys time. You can't destroy time for a planet. You destroy time. You destroy the universe. You destroy everything. And if these people want to just end the Earth because, it's been screwed up and, it's time to just get rid of it, the way they're doing it is going to end reality. It's going to end the entire universe. If there are alien civilizations that ever existed, that exist now, ever will exist, they are willing to kill those trillion times trillions of intelligent beings because their planet got effed up. Completely unbelievable motivation for them in the future. Even we never meet them, we know nothing about them. Sator says that is what's happening. And we also, that doesn't make for realistic motivation for Sator. So that's my biggest problem with this, is that there's so much plot that Nolan, who usually is really good about character motivation, Inception is wonderful in that sense. Interstellar, where I have a problem with the ending metaphysical bullshit in a movie that is so unbelievably scientifically accurate up to that point, but I'm willing to go for it because it's metaphysical bullshit, and that's the only point it appears in the movie. Is also wonderful character motivation. I mean, everything about that is believable. Nothing about the motivation of what drives this plot is believable from the standpoint of the villains. Just doesn't work at all. And we have no motivation whatsoever for the protagonist. And again, that's probably deliberate. This is Nolan creating the ultimate, insert your personality here character in a movie. But, motivation is what drives stories, folks. The fact that he pulls off such an incredibly complex plot for the most part, and makes you care about it for the most part, is a testament to his filmmaking ability. Because the general things that you would have to have in a movie for you to want to care about it or believe it don't exist. Which is character motivation. So kudos to Nolan for doing that. Other thing I don't like about it is, unlike other Nolan works, for the most part, when he makes a decision to do something that kind of doesn't make sense or is illogical or whatever, it stays consistent throughout the work. That is true with the metaphysical garbage at the end of Interstellar. It's true with the story being told backward in Memento. It's true in his stuff for the most part. He completely violates his own rules in this as far as the way time works. There are points where people, Neil tells protagonist that you can't go back and change time. The past is the past. It's happened. He makes some sort of vague reference to multiversal and alternate reality, alternate timelines, and so on, but only to say to protagonist, "So does your head hurt now?" And then never shows it. And at one point, the major plot hinge of the soldiers trying to get the MacGuffin before Sator kills himself, because he's got a kill switch in his Fitbit of all things. If his heart rate drops to 0, the MacGuffin triggers. So they have to get that before he dies, and he is planning on killing himself at a point in the past, because you can travel back and forth in the past as well as past and future, as well as moving things that are in one flow in the other direction. So he plans on traveling to the past to what he considers the happiest time of his life, when he was on his yacht with Kat and their son Max, something like that, in the waters off of Vietnam, and he's going to kill himself then, so that he doesn't die of cancer. Well, we've seen that time happen in one of Kat's memories. She remembers coming back to the yacht, seeing a woman jump off, so figuring he'd had a mistress or something there, and swim away, and then getting on the yacht, and Sator's there, and they have a discussion, and she tries to make life better, whatever. So the plan is to send future Kat back. She's the woman that gets on the boat after Kat at that time frame leaves with the son. And she's the one that Kat coming back to the boat sees jump off. Future Kat. And keep him from killing himself. Talk to him, do whatever she needs to do to keep him from killing himself until she gets the signal that they've secured the algorithm. And she doesn't. She can't wait. She waits as long as she can, but then finally shoots him in the chest and then throws him off overboard on his ship. He hits his head on the lower deck on the way down, snapping his neck. He's dead. Luckily, they just happened to get the MacGuffin like right at that time. Even though she wasn't sure that it was going to happen. She couldn't take it. She was apparently willing to let the universe end so that she could kill him. And so the universe doesn't end. But then current timeline Kat gets to the boat, and now Sator is nowhere to be found. Because future Kat, when she gets on the boat that she was on to get there, is hauling his dead body, hauling his ass tied to a rope through the waves. How does that work? That's a paradox. You've just created a paradox, and the problem is, Nolan, anytime the protagonist or anybody brings up an attempt to have somebody explain how all of this traveling back and forth through time and changing the entropy of things so they move backwards or forwards in a timeline that's moving in the other direction, doesn't cause problems, doesn't create instantly create paradoxes that, having something travel backwards in time when, time is moving in a forward direction for the rest of the universe, I would think instantly right there, it just creates a paradox. They just shrug it off. And that, the Marvel Cinematic Universe's alternate timelines, multiverse, and so on concept is still, let's say, 3/4 baked. But at least with, some of the exceptions where they, don't quite explain it properly, it's consistent. This is not in any way, shape, or form. So you're left with either assuming that we don't know how time is supposed to work for these people, and it doesn't make any sense in any of the current theories that anybody has about the flow of time and how it works. Or Nolan knew that it didn't make any sense. There was no way to make it make sense in a movie where he wanted to have things move forward and backward at the same time. And just shrugged and went, well, we'll just say it's, he doesn't say this, nobody in this is, but it's wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, to quote Doctor Who. And, this is supposedly a science fiction movie. So that bothers the heck out of me. Did it negatively impact how much I enjoyed the action, the performances? No. They were all fantastic. Would have been better if, some of it made even internal sense, to say nothing of, external sense in any of the theories of the way time works. But, you can't have everything, apparently. I mentioned the editing. So at the end, during this big, they've got to get the algorithm, the crankshaft, and rescue it and get it out of this, place before this explosion happens. They do an editing choice so that they can sort of hide a big reveal until the end, except it's telegraphed like crazy. So it doesn't matter whether they, do this sloppy editing of a fight scene there to hide that reveal. If you didn't know that was what was happening, then, you weren't paying attention. So why do that? It didn't work. It's just like, why would they make that kind of weird cut? Okay, who's where on either side of this, metal grate elevator shaft thing, it's bad. Everything else, all the rest of the editing in it is fantastic. That just is one of those decisions where you go, yeah, no, everybody knows what's going to happen. Again, if you don't, you're not paying attention. Everybody knows who that is on the floor. So don't try to make it a mystery and a big reveal later on. I mean, just a few minutes later on, but a big reveal by having bad editing. But again, that's what they did. That's what's in the movie. The music, as I mentioned, when it works for the general structure of the movie, it works really well. When it doesn't, it's really intrusive. It's creative. Apparently, and it's not Zimmer, because Zimmer was working on Dune. I can't remember the name of the composer, but apparently he played with what are sort of like bidirectional melody structures. So whether you play it forward or backward, it actually sounds the same, which is pretty cool. But there is an awful lot of Zimmer-esque boom sounds in this thing. And sound. As is the case with too many movies these days, the sound mix is terrible. I had to turn all of the sliders on. I was watching this in a browser on my, one of my big monitors. Turn the slider all on my browser setting in Windows 10 all the way up. Turn the volume in Windows 10 all the way up, just to be able to hear the dialogue. And no, I'm not deaf. So I got a lot of other things having to go along with this gray beard, but deaf ain't one of them. The sound mix was just really bad. There's a point at the end where protagonist and Neil, John David Washington and Robert Pattinson, are having a discussion out in the middle of this plain as Neil is walking slowly away. The plain is this empty area around this abandoned city. As Neil is slowly walking away toward a helicopter that he's going to get on. And the camera is pretty close onto protagonist. And he says, I can't remember what, it's like one word. I can't remember what it was. It's a reaction to something that Neil says. And it is so obviously ADR, like additional dialogue recording after the fact. Neil says something back, and then it goes back, and the sound drops right back into the exact sound of somebody with a boom mic recording them in the middle of this plain of gravel. It's just like, wow, that's the worst ADR insert I've heard in a long time, if not ever. It's almost as shockingly bad as the bad English dub of like a 1970s Chinese martial arts movie. It's like, wow, John David Washington, and the sound matches what Robert Pattinson is saying. Hi, I'm in a studio, and then they go back. It's like, okay, sure. That's nitpicky, but that's an indication of there are sound problems in this movie. Parts of it just can't be heard as far as dialogue goes. So overall, theme, tone, message, it's really hard to say, because you don't really know what any of the motivation of the main characters are, other than save the universe. So, is he trying to say that our perception of time is not just relative? Einstein said that. It is almost non-understandable. Maybe that's what he's trying to say. Is he trying to say that it doesn't matter? He breaks the rules of causality completely with things like traveling back in time, without establishing that this creates an alternate timeline. And if it creates an alternate timeline, then things that then happen after somebody changes something in the past wouldn't be there. So I don't know if there's an overriding theme to this. I guess at some level it's an ecological story, that we can't ruin our planet because people in the future are going to come back to time and blow up the universe. Sure. So I don't know. I can't take a message out of this because there's no clear motivation for any character to say, it's the power of friendship, or being true to yourself is. There's none of that. Action is fun, and getting to play with things with time is fun for Christopher Nolan. That's the message of this movie. So would I recommend it? Yeah, I mean it's a good watch. It is action-packed. It's exciting. The performances are wonderful. Again, John David Washington, put him in anything action-oriented. If you need to, replace Ethan Hunt in the Mission Impossible series, there's your man. Because he's American, so that'll work. Is there any other reason to watch it other than the fact that it's exciting? The performances are really good. And again, Nolan's direction, when he doesn't kind of go off the rails with the sort of garbage use of interpretation of time, is really solid. It's Christopher Nolan. Come on. But with a caveat, it's long, because of the fact that they cram so much into that 2 hours and 38 minutes. It gets tiring, not exhausting as some movies like that do, but when it's done, you kind of go, okay, wow, that's done. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but boy, it makes you feel every minute of it. By the time you're done. During it, it's pretty exciting, and you're kind of ooh, but then at the end you're just like, oh wow, okay. 2 hours and almost 40 minutes. It's over. Thanks. So like I said, a 6. I'm gonna go a 6.5. The performances give it at least a half a point to kick it up. So if you're into that, if you like exciting action movies that have a sort of a half-baked science fiction-y premise behind them, with a fantastic cast, they're doing awesome performances, shot beautifully, directed solidly, then yeah, I recommend it. Check it out. Be prepared to take a bathroom break somewhere along in there. So that's it, folks. That is the show. I went longer than I thought, but it was a lot to talk about in this movie. We will be doing our next Monday show will be No Nerd Caliber, and I believe we are going to be talking about our favorite CGI animated product, series or movie. Specifically those CGI. And the reason we're doing that is next Thursday's Full Fat Spoiler Chat is going to be the new CGI Netflix show, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Not the standard animation one that was written by Kevin Smith that dropped a few months ago. The one that just dropped last week and is CG animated. And is kind of a retelling, kind of a long-distance futuristic sequel. It's hard to... I haven't watched it yet, so it's hard to say exactly what it is. But anyway, that's going to be our topic. So our No Nerd Caliber is going to be favorite CGI movies or series. All CGI. And, of course, next Tuesday is Nerd Week Live, our nerd show. Boy, did we just drop... I can't not put this out there because everybody's going to know it. If you haven't seen the news yet, go look up Super Mario movie. The animated Super Mario movie, they talked about it in Nintendo Direct just a couple hours ago, and it's coming out holiday of 2022, and they announced the cast, and it's a cast, folks. Suddenly I'm excited about this. And other things. Other stuff has already dropped, some big bits of news in the world of nerddom and entertainment. So we'll see you at one of those upcoming shows if you get a chance, we would absolutely love it for you to go check out our, oh gosh, I forgot to re-tag it again. Anyway, so again, our Patreon page, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. You know what? I bet I can do this while I'm talking. So we have just 3 tiers, folks. First one starts at just $2, so super inexpensive. And there we go, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. Top one is $20. There are rewards, as it turns out, which I kind of forgot. So you can get some cool things if you do want to subscribe to us. But think about it. For let's see, $2, $12, $24 a year. The cost of 3 large Starbucks. You can help us out. Help us get to upcoming cons. Get more content for you on our YouTube channel, on our website, and so on. So yeah, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. Please, if you get a chance to check it out, we'd love to have you support us. And having said that, with that, I'm again Rodney Brown, editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, signing off, and I will see you at an upcoming show. Please, folks, stay safe. Bye-bye.